The note felt heavier than paper should ever feel. In the middle of laughter, clinking glasses, and bright afternoon sunlight spilling across the backyard, 4 simple words landed in my palm like a quiet earthquake, shifting everything I thought I knew about my life and my place in his. Before we go any further, let me pause here for just a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet ways love shows up when we least expect it, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. It helps these stories reach hearts that are still waiting to heal. The graduation party was supposed to be simple. That was the plan, at least. A daytime celebration in the open air, white chairs lined up beneath fluttering streamers, the smell of grilled food mixing with cut grass and warm summer wind. Everyone kept saying how proud they were of him, how far he had come, how bright his future looked. I smiled and nodded along, holding a paper plate in one hand and a plastic cup in the other, playing my role perfectly. I had learned how to do that over the years. Be present without being seen. Care deeply without expecting anything back. His name was Arav Malik, and watching him that day felt like watching a sunrise you knew you wouldn't be around to see again tomorrow. He stood tall in his graduation gown, laughing easily, his shoulders finally relaxed in a way I had rarely seen before. He looked lighter, freer, like someone who had survived something heavy and finally put it down. And in a way, he had. I wasn't family, not really. I wasn't a longtime friend either. I was just someone who had quietly stitched myself into the background of his life over the last few years. A tutor at first, then a mentor, then something harder to define. I had been there for late-night study sessions, for moments when he nearly gave up, for the days when his father's absence felt louder than any words. I never crossed lines. I never asked for more. I told myself that caring from a distance was safer for both of us. His mother, Samina Malik, moved through the party like a steady anchor. She greeted guests, refilled plates, adjusted decorations, and somehow still found time to watch her son with eyes full of emotion she never quite let spill over. She had lived most of her life that way, I realized. Holding things in. Carrying more than she showed. The sun was high, bright and honest, casting no shadows long enough to hide behind. It was the kind of afternoon that made everything feel exposed, as if truth itself had nowhere left to tuck itself away. I was standing near the edge of the yard when she approached me. There was nothing dramatic about it. No music swelling, no sudden silence. Just Samina, smiling gently, holding a folded piece of paper between her fingers. She pressed it into my hand with a look that felt deliberate, almost ceremonial, then squeezed my fingers once before moving on to greet another guest. I didn't open it right away. I stood there, heart ticking faster, wondering why a simple note felt like it could undo me. Around me, people laughed, someone clapped Arav on the back, a camera flashed. Life went on, completely unaware that something inside me was about to crack open. When I finally unfolded the paper, the words were neat, careful, and devastating in their simplicity. You already raised him. 4 words. No explanation. No signature. Just truth. My throat tightened as the noise around me faded into a distant hum. Memories rushed in uninvited. Late afternoons spent explaining math problems he pretended not to understand just to keep me there longer. The time he showed up at my door soaked from rain because he didn't know where else to go after failing an exam. The silent nods, the unspoken trust, the way he listened when I talked about resilience like it was a language he wanted to learn fluently. I had told myself I was just helping. That I was doing what anyone decent would do. But those 4 words stripped away my excuses. They forced me to see the truth I had been carefully avoiding. Raising someone doesn't always mean feeding them or housing them. Sometimes it means staying when leaving would be easier. It means believing in someone when they don't yet know how to believe in themselves. It means showing up again and again, even when no one is keeping score. I folded the note slowly, hands trembling, and slipped it into my pocket like a fragile secret. For the rest of the afternoon, I watched Arav differently. Not as a chapter I was about to close, but as a story I had unknowingly helped write. Still, doubt lingered. Because caring deeply had never come without cost in my life. I had learned early on that attachment could turn into ache if you weren't careful. I had my own scars, my own unfinished stories. Stepping back felt safer than stepping forward, even when forward was where my heart kept leaning. As the party continued, speeches were made, photos were taken, and plans for the future were discussed loudly and confidently. Arav talked about college, about ambitions that finally felt reachable. And I stood there, proud and terrified all at once, wondering where I fit into a future he was clearly ready to sprint into. The challenge wasn't loving him. That part had come naturally, quietly, without permission. The challenge was accepting that love didn't have to be invisible to be valid. That maybe, just maybe, the role I played mattered more than I allowed myself to believe. When the sun began to soften and the shadows grew gentler, Samina found me again. This time, she didn't hand me anything. She just looked at me with the kind of gratitude that doesn't need words. The kind that acknowledges sacrifice without turning it into a burden. I realized then that she had seen everything. The late nights, the patience, the way Arif's confidence slowly stitched itself together over time. She hadn't written the note impulsively. It was a recognition long overdue. The moment marked a shift inside me. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. Like a door opening where there had always been a wall. I began to imagine a life where I didn't have to disappear to prove I cared. A life where staying was not a weakness but a choice. Arif eventually made his way over, his face flushed with happiness, his eyes bright with plans. He thanked me, awkwardly, sincerely, for everything. And this time, instead of brushing it off, I let the gratitude sit between us. I let myself receive it. Daylight lingered as if reluctant to leave. The kind of afternoon that feels suspended, as though the world itself understands that something meaningful is happening and doesn't want to rush past it. I thought about how many times I had almost walked away. How fear had disguised itself as humility, how silence had felt safer than honesty. That note had cut through all of it, offering clarity instead of comfort, truth instead of distance. As guests slowly began to leave, the yard emptied, but my heart felt fuller than it had in years. The 4 words replayed in my mind, not as an accusation, but as an invitation. To step into a role I had already been playing. To stop pretending my presence was accidental. If this story is already stirring something inside you, if it's reminding you of someone who showed up for you when they didn't have to, take a second and let us know in the comments. Your engagement helps stories like this travel further than we ever could alone. By the time the sun dipped lower, painting everything in warm gold, I knew I wouldn't be leaving quietly anymore. Not from his life. Not from my own. The note didn't change the past, but it reshaped my understanding of it. It gave meaning to moments I had dismissed as temporary, to care I had labeled as excessive. In the days that followed, things didn't magically become easy. Growth never works that way. There were conversations that needed courage, boundaries that needed clarity, fears that needed facing. But there was also honesty, and with it, a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. Arif stepped into his future with confidence, and I walked alongside him, not ahead, not behind, just present. Samina watched us with quiet relief, knowing her son was surrounded by more than success. He was surrounded by care. That graduation party became more than a celebration of achievement. It became a turning point. Proof that sometimes, the smallest gestures carry the greatest weight. That 4 words, written in daylight, can illuminate years of unspoken truth. Just before we close this story, I have a special request for you. Please comment the word seen if you've ever felt invisible while giving your all to someone. Your words might be the reminder someone else needs today. And now, as we reach the end, if this story touched your heart, if it made you think about the people who shaped you quietly, please like, share, and engage with this video. Your support keeps these stories alive, reaching hearts that are still learning their worth. Because sometimes, love doesn't announce itself. Sometimes, it slips into your hand on a sunny afternoon and changes everything.